Good evening, everyone. 30 days ago, early morning on Sunday, June 27th, on the Hebrew calendar, the 17th of Tammuz, a day painful in Jewish history, we lost a giant of a man who meant so much to so many, and whose impact was and will continue to be breathtaking in scope. Harav Reuven Pinchas ben Harav Chaim Yaakov, Rabbi Reuven Bulka. May his righteous memory be a blessing. I take a moment to turn to Rabbi Bulka's family, his wife, his children, his grandchildren, his sister, and his extended family. On June 27th, we lost our rabbi. But on June 27th, you lost a husband, a father, a grandfather, a brother. On behalf of everyone that knew and loved Rabbi Bulka, we hope that you find comfort from the outpouring of love and support that you have seen over this last month, and from the knowledge that the legacy of your husband, your father, your grandfather, and your brother will continue to inspire us far into the future. As we speak of inspiration, that is what this evening's program is about. The last thing Rabbi Bulka would have ever have wanted is for us to sit around talking about him for 45 minutes. But as humble as Rabbi Bulka was, even he would not be able to deny the significance for us in Ottawa, in Canada, and throughout the world, to spend some time together reflecting on the life of a man who touched us individually and collectively so deeply, to reflect on the many lessons we learned from this great man, and for each and every one of us to embrace even one of those lessons in our own lives in a more powerful way than before. Even Rabbi Bulka would not be able to deny that this is a noble pursuit. So please join us this evening on this noble pursuit as we pay tribute to our beloved Rabbi Bulka, and in so doing come out inspired to do our part in continuing his righteous legacy.
Hello everyone, bonjour à tous. It is not without sadness that we come together today to honor and celebrate the life of Rabbi Bulka. Rabbi Bulka was a champion of community and faith, and over his 6 decades at the congregation Magziki Chadas in the nation's capital, he guided an entire community and entire generations of Canadians. He made a real difference in the lives of countless people across the country and around the world. Known as Canada's rabbi, he was always there to bridge divides and bring people together. He had a unique ability to do just that, to connect with people and groups from every corner of the country and every part of society. And he never failed to inspire Jewish Canadians and people across the country to live with optimism, humility, and devotion to kindness. C'est pourquoi il est devenu membre de l'Ordre du Canada et qu'il a reçu des médailles du Jubilé d'argent, d'or et de diamant de la reine Élisabeth II, ainsi que le médaillon des Forces canadiennes pour le service distingué. Sa contribution à notre pays est le résultat d'une vie consacrée au principe du tikkun olam. After all, it is thanks to his tireless efforts that Canada was the first country in the world to create a National Kindness Week. Dedicated to encouraging acts of kindness, volunteerism, and charitable giving, National Kindness Week will forever live on as Rabbi Bulka's legacy. And it's that legacy and those teachings that will continue to guide Canadians forward. This is a remarkable legacy to leave behind. So thank you to all of you for being here today to celebrate Rabbi Bulka's incredible life. And thank you to Rabbi Sher for his warmth, devotion, and strength in leading the community through this trying time. I know he will continue to lead with grace, and he'll always keep Rabbi Bulka's spirit alive. In honor of Rabbi Bulka, let's be kind to one another, one act at a time. May his memory ever be a blessing.
On this D-Day's 75th anniversary year, we reflect on the term D-Day, The D in D-Day does not stand for anything specific, but we can make this a specifically D year. A D year that stands for everything, everything meaningful. How do we achieve a banner D year? We achieve that by championing what our veterans fought to protect. Here is a blueprint for a D year. Let us dazzle in the dynamic devotion to our destiny as a country determined in its dedication to the dignified diversity of its people, as we delight in the delivery of deferential decency with discipline and diligence to assure that we can all live the Canadian dream. God bless our veterans, God bless our troops, God bless all those who stand on guard, peace champions all, here and abroad. God bless Canada. Amen.
Dear friends, I join you today in paying tribute to a remarkable man and beloved Jewish leader. Rabbi Reuven Bulka, Zichrono Levacha, was many things to many people. A devoted spiritual leader of his congregation, Machzikei Hadat, for over 5 decades, a scholar, prolific author of dozens of books, an activist, and president of the Canadian Jewish Congress, a champion of numerous noble causes, including organ transplantation and blood donations. Actually, he knew members of the family of past generations, and the linkage between Israel and Canada was a pillar of his life. The common thread weaved throughout Rabbi Bulka's lifetime of impact was his passion for practicing kindness and inspiring selflessness in others. The attribute of kindness served as the core motivation in every dimension of his life. It propelled him to do more, do better, and do just. Kindness was the northern star of Rabbi Bulka's moral compass, and true to his generous spirit, he shared this passion with those around him. By serving as a living example of chesed, Rabbi Bulka's kindness was proactively contagious for all those around him. His mission was to empower others to adopt the principles of kindness and have it form their thoughts and action. He inspired his surroundings to seek out and cultivate compassion, to broaden the circle of kindness based on the notion of Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Rabbi Bulka was a public servant in the deepest sense of the word, a cherished servant of his congregation, a loyal servant of his country, Canada, a servant of his beloved homeland, Israel, a servant of the Jewish people, and one who strived for unity of the Jewish people. His loss leaves us with a great void, but his legacy provides us with the blueprints for enhancing meaning in our lives and a kinder, better future. Our heart is heavy, and it goes out to Rabbi Bulka's friends and family. But our soul is filled with gratitude to what he has done and what he leaves us with. Yehi Zichro Baruch.
I was privileged to enjoy a relationship with Rabbi Bulka that spanned more than 30 years. It was a deeply personal relationship, wherein Rabbi Bulka served as a wise mentor and a supportive colleague, one rooted in intimate friendship bordering on familial bonds. But it was a private relationship and should remain so. However, as we mark the Shloshim of this revered icon, I join with you in a more public capacity as the president and CEO of CIJA, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, to reflect on Rabbi Bulka's contribution to the broader Jewish community, indeed his contribution to Canadian society. In a word, Rabbi Reuven Bulka was the face of the Jewish community to millions of Canadians, Canada's rabbi. Anchored in his unwavering commitment to authentic Jewish tradition and grounded in the imperative of seeking meaning in life, as articulated by his teacher and friend, the renowned psychologist Viktor Frankl. Rabbi Bulka's annual address on Remembrance Day roused Canadians to express gratitude for the sacrifices of our Canadian forces. His tireless efforts in promoting organ transplantation and blood donations inspired Canadians to understand life as a precious gift that only has true meaning when shared with those in need. His determination to forge ties with other faith communities reminded Canadians that stripped to its essence, what all of humanity holds in common far exceeds any outward distinctions or superficial differences. His relentless quest to infuse Canadians with the imperative to have kindness inform what we do and how we do it has made us better as individuals, as a community, as a nation. I know this to be true. I've experienced it to be true. I have seen it to be true. Rabbi Reuven Bulka exemplified the very best of our sacred tradition and invited all Canadians to share in the beauty of those values. He defined the concept of Kiddush Hashem, the sanctification of God's name, and his legacy lives in the hearts of all who follow in his path. Yehi Zichro Baruch, may his memory, his living memory, be for a blessing.
This is not about who wins the religion race. It's more about getting people to focus in on what's important in life and getting them to think beyond themselves and to be committed to making the world a better place.
Shalom, I'm Jim Watson, Mayor of the City of Ottawa. Rabbi Bulka sadly left us earlier this summer, an outstanding community and religious leader who spent a lifetime bringing people together and fighting racism, left the world in a better place than when he entered it. He epitomized kindness. He was a larger-than-life figure in Ottawa and around the world, and he always stepped up when we needed him the most. Whether it was for a small fundraiser, for a local charity, or for a national cause, Rabbi Bulka put his heart and soul into the work he was doing. He really set a great example for all Canadians. I will certainly miss his speeches on those cold November 11th Remembrance Day ceremonies at the National War Memorial. Thousands upon thousands gathered downtown for a moment of reflection to think of a loved one, a friend, a family member. All were together for different reasons, but Rabbi Bulka's words reminded us that we all had one common purpose: to seek kindness in one another. I still get chills when I think of the silence in the streets of Ottawa as he delivered the powerful message to our nation. While he's no longer with us, we will always remember him. And the city recently dedicated a kindness park in his honor as a lasting tribute to a true community builder. On behalf of all residents of Ottawa, I want to thank the family and friends of Rabbi Bulka for sharing him with the people of Ottawa, and may he rest in peace. Thank you. Merci.
What would you say is your life story in 6 words?
Trying to make a difference. Yeah, how many words is that?
Trying to make a difference. That's only 5.
The only one.
I'm honored and humbled to be able to share a few thoughts about what Rabbi Bulka, Zichrona Livracha, means to Ottawa's Jewish community. In a word, everything. Firstly, our dear Rabbi was one of the most and best fundraisers ever. So much of what we value in the community today, from programs and institutions, are because of the Rabbi's fundraising acumen. A few years ago, I went to see a donor who generously told me that he'd be able to maintain his already generous gift, but wasn't in position to increase because he knew who our campaign chair was going to be the following year. And that was Rabbi Bulka. And he knew, without being asked, that he wanted to do something extra special in Rabbi Bulka's honor. And that's one of the magics of having Rabbi Bulka on your fundraising team. The respect that he has earned from people, how much they like him, the high esteem in which he's held. And this, coupled with his passion, his drive, his intelligence, his warmth, and his humor, has really put the Rabbi in a fundraising class all of his own. Secondly, is the Rabbi's impact on Jewish Ottawa as a thought leader. A thought leader for how different people and organizations can find ways to work together despite differences. A thought leader for ideas and projects and initiatives that have really propelled our community to greatness. And a thought leader on how to add value and meaning. I remember speaking with the Rabbi shortly after the Tree of Life massacre in Pittsburgh and really talking about how we could meaningfully gather the community together at this tragic moment. And he had one of his amazingly profound yet deceptively simple ideas, and that was on the stage to have 11 empty chairs with 11 yahrzeit candles on an otherwise completely empty stage. It was the right idea for the right moment, and that is such a rare skill and one that I truly value and appreciate. Thirdly, our dear Rabbi's impact are the values and behaviors that he modeled for each of us every minute of every day. How to treat others with kindness, with humility, and with respect. He modeled compassion and care, and these attributes are more present in Jewish Ottawa than any other community I know. And this is the Rabbi's influence. And my fourth and final thought, and with this, to be fair, I'm really only beginning to scratch the surface of our dear Rabbi's impact. And it's that professional and volunteer leaders in Ottawa's Jewish community were blessed to take on our role with the Rabbi providing an invisible and invaluable safety net. Among the many hats that he wore, and ironically never a winter coat, he was also our community's chief fire person. Solving any community crisis or challenge involved multiple phone calls to the Rabbi for guidance and for his special touch in calming stormy waters and soothing tempers. But it was more than this. It was his support for people, and in this context, people in leadership roles. No matter what the challenge or issue, he had a unique ability to make us feel better about ourselves, gave us confidence and resolve by offering a kind, warm word, and by doing so, he made us better leaders, and by extension, he strengthened our community. He provided this safety net with love and with generosity and without fanfare. It was an invaluable gift and one that I miss every day. His memory will forever and always be a blessing.
If you make a mistake, don't hide it, don't hide behind it, don't make excuses, just apologize without any qualifications.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. It's humbling to be able to speak at such an event in memory of my grandfather, Rabbi Bulka. You know, very few grandchildren can say that they discover new things about a grandparent via a Google search. Over the last month or so, I found out countless new facts actually about my grandfather from Google searches. Around 7 months ago, when my grandfather was first diagnosed, I asked him if I could write a book about his life. He was reluctant due to his immense humility, but eventually agreed, and I had the opportunity to interview him for many hours. But it feels as though in the last month I've learned so many new things, and those interviews hardly scratched the surface. There were so many organizations that have written articles about my grandfather that I haven't even heard of. But the truth is, I think what really made my grandfather so impactful wasn't these huge organizations that he chaired, wasn't even the Kindness Week that he founded and that became Canada-wide, but it was the smaller things. A common theme I found in almost every email and every note and every story that someone shared or sent in was about the way my grandfather was there for them in difficult times and in good times. He officiated at their weddings, he was there for bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and he was there for the difficult times, for losses, funerals, hospitals. He didn't just visit people in the hospital, but he'd call them for days afterwards to see how they were doing. I still remember the phone call I got after I had a baby when I was in the hospital and the subsequent visit. And I have to say I'm kind of happy I didn't answer the phone call because I still have the voicemail that he left me. And every time I listen to it, I get to hear that exuberance in his voice and how excited he was to be there for other people in these happy occasions. I spoke to one of my grandfather's friends, Rabbi Moshe Drelach, and he shared with me a beautiful idea. One of the verse on the coat of arms that was given to the shul, that my grandfather was the rabbi of, in Hebrew it says, Eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba. Loosely translated, it means, right, a tree of life that one can hold on to. And it obviously refers to the Bible, to the Torah. But Rabbi Drelach said to me, your grandfather was a living Torah. He was someone that exuded his principles, came with him everywhere. He had very high caliber. He was a larger than life figure. But at the same time, he was someone you can hold on to. You can get to that level. You felt almost as if he was relatable, as if the things that he accomplished were attainable. And I think that was what made him so incredible, and part of the reason why we're having such an event for him right now. You know, a lot of times you hear about great people and you're inspired, but you're left without what to do next. And I think my grandfather has given us this opportunity to realize that it's not just the big things. We don't have to find a kindness week Canada-wide in order to make a difference. But, you know, it's comforting to me to know that to continue my grandfather's legacy, it's as simple as picking up the phone to call somebody that's going through a hard time and make them feel better. And that's the legacy I want to take with me, and hopefully you'll take with you. Thank you.
Whatever blessings we have in life, we should be grateful for them. We should not take them for granted. We should not squander our health on nonsense. We should do whatever we can to make the world a better place. And whatever blessings that life gives you, grab them.
Rabbi Bulka was our teacher. During Torah services, when we would call him up to recite the blessings in Aliyah, we would refer to him as Moreinu Harav, our teacher and our rabbi. Indeed, Rabbi Bulka taught us in so many ways. Through action and through deed, he taught us, and he taught us brilliantly. Through words and writings, he taught us. He was a scholar and a prolific author. But it was when he was sharing Torah insights based on our age-old heritage, he would speak with a certain excitement. Rabbi Bulka saw the wisdom of Judaism as relevant and uplifting for all of humanity. And it was with such enthusiasm that he would share these values and uplift those that he would encounter. So it's only appropriate that at a tribute to the life of Rabbi Bulka, that we share a little bit of Torah insights. Early on, coming to Ottawa, Rabbi Bulka and I were sitting next to each other as we did every single day for prayer services and for Torah services. And it was in the middle of a Torah service. He turns to me with a smile, almost not able to contain himself, and he says, "Abraham is my favorite." I thought it was interesting. I wasn't sure why, but I just filed it away because the Torah service continued. Then, this past year, we were at the same Torah portion discussing Abraham. And it was as if the story happened in exactly the same way. Rabbi Bulka turned to me, again with a smile, and said, "Abraham is my favorite." And then the Torah service continued, and I never did ask him, "Why, Rabbi Bulka? Why is Abraham your favorite?" But now, after having spent close to 7 years with Rabbi Bulka, one of the greatest blessings of my life, I think the answer is obvious. Rabbi Bulka, I believe, took it upon himself to be the Abraham of the 20th and the 21st century. For starters, you think about Abraham leaving the cosmopolitan city and journeying to a faraway land. Well, Rabbi Bulka, 55 years ago, left big New York City to come to Ottawa. And of course, this was before Ottawa became the cosmopolitan city that it is today. Abraham traditionally is considered the first Jew. The Torah calls him a Hebrew, Ivri in Hebrew. The word Ivri is short for the words Me'aver Lanahar, which means a man that stood across the river. A man with deep faith, deep conviction, deep confidence. A man with the courage to stand across the river, bucking trends and doing things differently. A man who would see something as right and just and refuse to be stopped by all of those obstacles that generally stifle your average human being. And because of that, Abraham made a massive difference standing across the river, and so too Rabbi Bulka. The words, "I'm too tired," the words, "I'm uncomfortable to be in this situation," the words, "what will others think," the words, "there's no way I can do this myself," the words, "I'm too cold, it's too cold outside," The words that plagued the rest of humanity, for Rabbi Bulka, he was a man that stood across the river. And if there was something that was right, there was something that was just, there was something that was good, there was absolutely nothing that could stop him. But I think the parallel runs a little bit deeper. We wonder, why was Abraham chosen by God to be the father of a great nation, of great nations? And the first thing that comes to mind is that Abraham was the only one, the one, who using his own human intellect found God, found this ethical monotheism in a world that believed very differently. So perhaps we can say Abraham chose God, and in turn, God chose Abraham. And when you think about that, that meant that Abraham saw God where no one else did. How deeply connected is this to Rabbi Bulka? Firstly, because Rabbi Bulka always saw things a little bit differently. He'd always have a fresh or unique perspective that made him the valuable advisor and teacher that he was. But it was more. Rabbi Bulka saw God where we so often miss him. Rabbi Bulka saw the divine in every single human being. Rabbi Bulka saw the best part of every human being and treated each person accordingly. That's why, no matter who you were, you felt a sense of dignity, you felt respected in Rabbi Bulka's presence. And as he saw you that way, you would become empowered to see yourself that way, to see your own personal greatness, and to live propelled by that understanding. That's why we were so taken, so inspired every single time we engaged with Rabbi Bulka. But I think the parallel goes one step deeper. Why was Abraham chosen? Well, the Torah tells us that God chose Abraham because God knew that Abraham would inspire his children and his household after him to do tzedakah umishpat, compassionate righteousness and moral justice. Abraham realized that his existence was infinitely purposeful and that he was put into this world to partner with God, to take care of God's children, and in turn to elevate the world. Who do we know that this better describes their life's mission than our beloved Rabbi Bulka? And the parallels keep on going. Abraham named his son Yitzchak or Isaac, which means laughter. And when I think of Rabbi Bulka, I think of Rabbi Bulka laughing. I think of his rich sense of humor that brought joy and fun to every situation. So Rabbi Bulka, I think it's obvious why Abraham was your favorite. You were the Abraham of the 20th and 21st century. And one last thing. The Torah refers to the people that Abraham and his wife inspired as the souls that they made, almost as if to say that they brought out these people's souls, saw them as divine, and so inspired them to be. And it was these souls, they were the ones who perpetuated the lessons and legacy of their teacher, Abraham. Well, Rabbi Bulka, we are your souls. And today we commit, each and every one of us, in one way or another, to perpetuate the lessons you taught us now and forever. And with that in mind, it's a great honor to introduce Eliezer Bulka, Rabbi Bulka's son, to speak further about his father's legacy.
Nous sommes ici pour nous souvenir et témoigner. Many of you will likely recognize this phrase as the words with which our father would begin his annual Remembrance Day speech at the War Memorial. In French, and possibly the only French my father knew outside of Merci beaucoup, it means we are here to remember and bear witness. These are certainly appropriate words to describe what brings us together tonight. However, while our father in his unique and special manner inspired the masses annually to remember those who are in danger of being forgotten, we are here to remember and honor someone who is simply unforgettable. This is the culmination of a 30-day phase of mourning following our beloved father's passing. It has certainly been a rough and difficult time for us as a family, and by family, I mean every single one of you. First and foremost, on behalf of my siblings and Leah and our Aunt Rivka, thank you for the tremendous outpouring of support during this time. We truly felt that you participated with us not as outsiders trying to provide comfort, but as companions sharing in our sorrow. We appreciate everyone reaching out via email or phone submitting stories and personal feelings, and certainly everyone who joined us via Zoom, including those who tried to get on but were unsuccessful. One phrase I remember hearing often was, "You've probably heard this already," or "I'm sure this is nothing new." My response was always that each and every story you tell is valuable to us. Even if your story of how our Father helped you in a time of need or a time of celebration is identical to many others, it provides further comfort and adds to our appreciation of how our Father would do anything to help anyone. We know that you all would like a way to contribute to the furthering of our Father's legacy, so I would like to introduce to you a number of different initiatives that are in the works. Under the guidance of Rabbi Sher and co-chairs Bram Bregman and Ron Prehogan, the Rabbi Bulka Legacy Project has been established to continue our Father's tireless efforts to build the community and spread kindness, inside and out. A number of the following endeavors were actually worked on by our Father, and those honoring him were communicated to him before he passed away. The synagogue's main sanctuary, the focal point of your prayers, and the venue for thousands of our Father's inspiring sermons, will be renovated and renamed the Rabbi Bulka Sanctuary. Continuing on the theme of prayer, it was always one of our Father's dreams to publish a siddur, prayer book, to provide a more rich and meaningful prayer experience to his congregants. We thank Rabbi Sher for helping make this dream a reality, and proudly announce that the Rabbi Bulka edition siddur is forthcoming within the next year. I personally worked with my father on some aspects of this project, so I know firsthand how dear it was to him. Our Father's basement office in our Featherston Drive home was a sanctuary in its own right. The extensive multitude of Jewish volumes that made up his library, as well as a significant collection of books relating to psychology, will be housed in the synagogue for the benefit of the entire community. The synagogue has just finished building the magnificent Rabbi Bulka Library, accessible to all. Yet another undertaking of the Legacy Project is the creation of a special youth wing at Congregation Machzikei Adas, realizing another of our Father's visions to foster the inspiration and growth of the youth of the community, whom our Father cherished greatly and treated as his own. Finally, to put a special touch on what is probably our Father's most widely known initiative, a special Rabbi Bulka Kindness Day is in the works to take place during the recently established National Kindness Week in February. This will bring together the entire Ottawa community to engage in kindness together. Lastly, I would like to offer my own personal thoughts on a way all of us can further our Father's mission of kindness and perpetuate his memory through our everyday actions. We have heard so many touching and inspiring recollections of how our Father filled his day with helping others and providing support and encouragement in so many special ways. There is a prevalent theme that is constant in all of these stories. There was always an easier way. When your baby was born, our Father could have done his duty with a congratulatory phone call, but instead he showed up in the hospital 10 minutes later. When you were facing a daunting medical prognosis, he could have just checked in from time to time, but instead he sat with you during your treatment. As you recovered, a weekly "How are you doing?" would surely have been meaningful, but instead he called every single day to keep up with your recovery with loving care. The nurses would surely have appreciated the occasional thank you, but instead they received donuts and candies. I believe it is this aspect of how our Father cared for everyone that left such an indelible impression. It wasn't just making himself available for everyone all the time. It was always going out of the way to go the extra mile. I was going to say the extra kilometer, but I didn't want to minimize it. I don't think I'm saying anything earth-shattering when I point out that we live in an ever-evolving digital world that is constantly creating more convenient and easy ways to get things done. Our Father might have been one of the early adopters of the car phone and certainly made frequent use of email as a communication tool. But his participation in emerging technologies pretty much ended there. As we navigate this ever-changing world of emojis, shortcuts, and cyberspeak, let us always keep in mind that the easy way might not be the best way to convey complete care and compassion to the other. Consider that friending on Facebook is not the same as being a true friend. Maybe replace TY with "thank you very much" in a text. Maybe a detailed email would mean more than a quick text. Or how about an actual phone call, while that's still a thing? Perhaps what they really need is the most old-fashioned form of communication of all, face-to-face. Keeping this simple idea in mind will certainly help preserve the Rabbi Bulka legacy of kindness. Once again, thank you all, and good night.
I am grateful for the life that I've lived, which includes everything. My parents, my grandparents, unfortunately, I never met. My dear wives, my children, their children, their children's children, and the opportunity to have a rabbinic life that, contrary to all the warnings that I got that being a rabbi is not a profession for a Jewish boy, I found it to be so wonderfully fulfilling.